For my audience research report, I will be analyzing 2 soccer matches. The 2 matches will be of the United States Soccer Federation's 2 teams, the men's national team and the women's national team. The women competed for the FIFA World Cup title and the men competed for the CONCACAF Gold Cup title. The 2 matches were actually held on the same day, with the women playing before the men. Although these 2 teams work under the same federation, there are still many pay discrepancies and differences between the women's and men's teams that have been brought to light this World Cup. There are 3 ways that soccer players earn money: through the national team, through their club, and through sponsors. Most of the men and the women have all 3 of these incomes. The Washington Post explains that if both teams were to play 20 friendly games, the player on the women's team would earn about 89% of the compensation of a similarly situated men's team player. Now, in terms of championship prize money, the total prize money for the Women's FIFA World Cup in 2019 is $30 million. The champions will walk away with about $4 million each. In contrast, the 2018 Men's World Cup, the champions won $38 million each from a total pool of about $400 million. With both of these matches getting played on the same day and all of the politics involved, I thought that it would be interesting to watch both games and conduct an autoethnographic study of myself to see if, as an audience member, I can distinctively see the differences in the games of the men and women and see if I could find a reason for the pay gap. My research question is, why are the men paid more than the women, and how does this affect me as an audience member? My hypothesis is that there must be some reason for the wage gap that will be obvious and explain the issues at hand. While watching the game, I will be taking field notes to analytically record what I am experiencing. After this, I did some traditional coding using highlights and post-it notes to seek out trends and themes among the categories I set up. After organizing the results, I came out with a few key points. First of all, in terms of similarities, I felt that the level of play, skill, and aggressiveness in terms of my entertainment as an audience member between the 2 teams was very comparable. Also, both teams had a lot of fans and sold out both of their games. The crowds were very lively, singing and chanting very loudly. In terms of differences, the men often wasted time after the whistle was blown, either rolling around on the ground or asking for first aid or fighting and yelling with the other team, which was not very prominent for the women. This is an interesting point because the men were acting very petty and emotional after each play, which are often traits associated stereotypically with women. Another point was for the women's game, the announcers often used their time to speak of politics and other issues rather than just sports. The announcers talked about politics of the match and the players involved, women's rights in soccer, and women and their families and their personal life. This was not done at all in the men's match. I personally found this extra banter interesting, but I already knew most of it. This got me to think of why they were adding this extra information. It could be to keep people interested, who maybe knew it watching women's sports, or to gain more fans by informing them. Personally, I would have rather them just talk about the sport. Another difference is that many of the staff for the women's game were men and women, whereas for the men's game, I rarely saw any women's staff members at all. There needs to be more inclusion in this area. In conclusion, after my research and analysis was finished, I conclude that there is no vast difference between the entertainment value of the women's and the men's teams. Therefore, they should get paid the same amount. My hypothesis is proven null. Therefore, I failed to answer my research question of why men get paid more than women. There is no reason why the women get paid less other than their gender.